The book is about the independent music business and a series of independent record companies that started either concurrent with or just after the kind of moment in punk when the DIY impulse, lots of people had about self-releasing singles. That was something generally done by bands who wanted to put the record out. And then there are a handful of people who wanted to take that further and start record companies, but the impetus and the drive of do-it-yourself was coming from the same place. And it's about what amateurs can achieve when everything becomes standardised and professionalised, and how much fun can be had, and how high the cost of having that fun can be. It's very, very chaotic, very messy. There's a long tradition of people like Ahmet Ertegun of Atlantic being equally hedonistic as the Rolling Stones and being on their 72 tour, and I think that kind of comes with the territory where if people want to sign to your label because they think that you're some kind of maverick, then I think quid pro quo of that is experiencing maverick behaviour. The idea of making up as you go along is very refreshing to bands, I think. 50-50, we'll split the money two ways. Let's take some of these and see what happens. It's a very exciting way to do business with a young man or a young woman. But someone who says, right, this is your product manager, this is the contract from now, here so-and-so is going to do your hair. That has its place, certainly, but I think the idea of kind of all being in on something, on some sort of conspiracy, is a very exciting force in music. There's a sort of human consequence for constantly dealing with, a cash flow that's going over the cliff and being perpetually on the urge of bankruptcy. And just, I think small businesses do go wrong, and it's a very high pressure environment. If you add drugs and drink and erratic behaviour to that, things can go wrong. One thing that astonished me in my research was just how many records were sold during this period from the late 70s to early 90s. Just before rough trade distribution went bust, the independent sector was worth nearly 30% of the music market, and when rough trade started it was probably worth about 8%. So the amount of records that those people sold is phenomenal. The KLF sold millions and millions of singles, all from sitting around a kitchen table in a squat in Stockwell. The word independence had gone out of the way the word indie was used, so I just wanted to write about the people who made independence happen, and I wanted to write about how they did it, and I wanted to write about the extraordinary way they did it as well, how much fun they had, how many records they sold, and how things like Depeche Mode and KLF and the Cocteau Twins and New Order have got precious little to do with what we call indie today. And I thought if a few people read it, they might be inspired to try and do it the independent way and have some fun. But mainly I wanted to record how all these disparate people work together in a very enterprising way that kind of really changed how we listen to music in this country. There's now a radio station that's devoted purely to that kind of music, which would have been unthinkable when Alan Horn and Edwyn Collins were coming up with this idea of reconfiguring the past just after punk. Punk had been all about not listening to old records, and here were two young, educated Glaswegians who wanted to have some fun with the past. And of course they wanted pop stardom, and they really did think they were going to be in the top 10. And Orange Juice were, when they signed to Polydor, made it to top 5 with Rip It Up. But the idea that went on to kind of achieve this thing where we've got there's a national radio station dedicated to that kind of music, and you can't move for its influence on fashion and music, is I just thought it was really important to explain how all that was achieved, and the journey from independence to indie was taken by those people.